Good morning. Committee will come to order. Thank you all for being here, particularly Administrator Huerta for being here, and the Kogan family members. Thank you for being here. On September 30th of this year, the current Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization expires. This current authorization occurred after 5 years of short-term extensions and a partial shutdown, which resulted in tremendous instability and uncertainty for the agency, industry, stakeholders, and the flying public. Chairman Schuster and I have repeatedly talked about this and pledged to do our very best, along with Mr. DeFazio and Mr. Larson, to see that this will not happen again. As we draft the new authorization, there are several key areas that must be addressed. Technological advances since the last bill are at the heart of two key areas of focus: the move toward GBS-based air traffic control under NextGen and the growth of commercial interest in unmanned aerial systems. These technologies hold enormous potential that could improve the efficiency and safety of our airspace system while unlocking billions of dollars in economic activity for the country. As Administrator Huerta will concur, NextGen utilizes many technologies that would not only increase capacity but also improve the safety of our airspace. Many of these technologies were researched, developed, and tested at the FAA Technical Center, the premier research and development facility for the FAA, which is in my district. While progress has been made on establishing NextGen foundational programs, it's clear that the FAA has a great deal of work to do before passengers and operators begin to realize more significant benefits. For the past year, we've received an extensive amount of input from stakeholders regarding the slow pace of FAA implementation of NextGen, as well as the agency's inefficient and overly burdensome certification processes, which we think is impacting in a negative way on the economics of the country. Many of these problems have been identified in several oversight hearings conducted by the subcommittee, as well as by DOT Inspector General and Government Accountability Office. In addition, we've raised them directly with Secretary Fox and Administrator Huerta, and I would again convey that Congress as a whole is closely monitoring the FAA's progress on NextGen, and the subcommittee will continue its vigorous oversight in light of recent reports from the DOT Inspector General on cost overruns and delays. Furthermore, after months of delay, the FAA finally released its proposed rule on the integration of small unmanned aerial systems, or UAS, into the national airspace. But the estimate timeline of 2017 for finalization of the rule, I think, just seems too long. Other countries are moving ahead more quickly than us as we speak, and the American leadership simply cannot be taken for granted and or allowed to slip. I urge the FAA to act both quickly and carefully to ensure the United States leads the world in safe UAS integration. Having the resources of the FAA Technical Center and the 6 UAS test sites at its disposal, I believe the agency can achieve this important goal, and Mr. Larson and I stand with the committee ready to work with Administrator Huerta with you on this and on other issues. As we move forward with FAA Authorization Act, we must ensure that our efforts to address these long-standing problems do not adversely impact safety, which has and will continue to be a top priority of the committee. On that note, I'd like to hear from Administrator on the FAA's efforts to implement one of the last outstanding requirements of the Airline Safety Act of 2010, the establishment of pilot records database. On a final note, we are now well into the 21st century. However, many of our systems and regulatory platforms are for 20th century world. Now it's time for Congress, stakeholders, and the community to work together to do something big to ensure that our leadership in aviation is maintained. Before I recognize my colleague, Mr. Larson, for his comments, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material for the record of this hearing. Without objection, so ordered. And now I'd like to yield to Mr. Larson for any opening remarks.